on to Berlin, Germany, where our next matchup is between Misfits Gaming and Fnatic. Two star-filled lineups returning to the LEC with a lot to prove, and this is their first big test. Let me just say, I am incredibly hyped to see these two teams hitting directly against each other. Fnatic had a great start yesterday, as did Misfits, and I like that we're finally going to see a match between these two that can tell us something indicative about their power level.
Yeah, I mean, we've got sOAZ versus old team, Febiven versus old team. What's not to love?
And what's great is that you are rising up Misfits. The fact is you're like, if Fnatic, if they beat Misfits, they really have done it. They're really at the top of the table again, which, you know, maybe just not 3-4 weeks ago, we would have been like, Fnatic versus Misfits, easy.
Yeah, let's forget about spring.
No, I totally agree. And also for Fnatic, you know, yesterday they had a fantastic game as well. So we need to highlight what went so well for them. And I think what was quite terrifying is Broxah and Nemesis. Of course, this is a duo that's only been playing together since the beginning of spring. And we're looking for them to improve, and we're seeing that.
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of starting towards the end of the spring split. I think they really started working well together to get the other lanes ahead. But in this game, we actually saw Broxah visiting that multiple lane, really trying to snowball Nemesis. And that was a really good look for this Fnatic squad.
It feels like you are finally getting this new iteration of Fnatic, whereas Bwipo is a phenomenal weak side top laner. He does a lot without being given resources by his team. Broxah is back to being a playmaking jungler. Nemesis now also a playmaking mid laner. And then you have Hilly on that Thresh, who had a great game alongside the stable Sivir is in meta Rekkles. And that's exactly what Fnatic fans want to see from this team.
Yeah, it's worked out. Do you think the meta in general is favoring this Fnatic lineup?
Yeah, I think if you're playing as fast as Fnatic is, right, with Broxah being very proactive and Nemesis trying to move around the map with him, absolutely that is great for Fnatic.
Yeah, we'll have our eye on that duo once again in this one as Fnatic is up versus Misfits. They also started off with a win against Rogue. Now, I know us as well as fans, we want to see more and we want to wait, but you can only beat what is in front of you. So I'm at least happy that they were able to beat Rogue in the end yesterday, Frost.
Yeah, and I know that there was a lot of complaints about like, yeah, but they just did it in the same way that we've already seen. I don't think you need to reinvent the wheel. You just got to push it downhill. You have Hansama and Gorilla. Keep throwing Maxlore and playmaking junglers. Keep camping that lane, because just like Bwipo is being a good weak side top laner, guess what? sOAZ invented that role. This is great. You don't need to give him anything and he will be fine.
Yeah, and I don't think this is a team where you need to make like big sweeping changes in terms of play style. This is a team that finished 8th place, but has the players to do much, much better than that. We know that, so don't go out of left field and create something new. Just go for that strategy, which is snowball Hansa.
Hilariously, your statement was, they don't need to change anything. They finished 8th.
Yeah, well, they don't need to like go all out, because we did see this team.
I understand.
Right? I know, but like summer last year, let's take it, right? Misfits played super well with this one style. Obviously, it fell off towards the end, but we have seen them be very, very strong with this idea.
Yeah, when we look at the matchup and then the lanes versus each other, who do we think needs to step up on each team, rather, on which role to get the victory?
You.
Me. I'd
Yes,
like to see Febiven have a bit of a cleaner game.
Okay.
Now, he was ganked very early on by Inspired yesterday. A couple of the kills went down, and he did manage to recover. But I want 2015 Febiven back, because I feel like Nemesis is entering the stage where if you give him a power pick like Aurelia, he's not going to get that pick again. Hopefully for Misfits fans, he will make plays happen, whereas Febiven still feels like he's sitting a bit too much in his lane, that he's still just kind of skirting or hiding underneath the radar.
What's the verdict on Febiven?
I actually like Febiven. Yesterday, it didn't really work that well, but if you look back to spring, he was the most consistent performer on this Misfits team.
Yeah, but the thing is they were in
but he averaged leads in his lane, right? It was not that like he was a weakness, he was actually a strength.
You can...
I understand what you're saying, but I just feel like Febiven played last split where when the dominoes were set up, yeah, he would push them over, but I want him to set up his own dominoes. I think that the caliber of mid lane is higher, and the caliber of Febiven is higher. We've seen the insane highs that this guy can do, so I want to see Febiven unlocked. I don't just want him to be like, well, I guess everything's set up for me, my stats are fine, KDA player, knock it over. I want to see 2015 Fnatic Febiven.
All right, I think that's a lot to put on his shoulders, but I'll be looking at this game through that lens for Febiven. Now, I'll also be looking very closely at the bottom lane, because it's also where a lot of the star power of both lineups are concentrated, with Rekkles and Hilly, and then Hansama, of course, on the other side.
Those names?
Star power.
What's the name of Fnatic's bot lane?
Star power.
Yeah, that's actually correct. We have a quota. We got to talk about Rekkles and Hilly at least 6 times.
Yesterday, of course, we were talking a lot about Hansama Sama, and we say that's always the win condition for Misfits. How do we think they're going to do versus a Fnatic bottom lane?
I think that if Sama and Gorilla get a strong 2v2 lane, these are the players to beat Rekkles and Hylissang in lane. You know, they have the power in that 2v2, and if you bring Maxlore around with them to cover them, they should actually have pretty good chances.
Yeah, but you know that Fnatic are going to like quadruple teleport into that lane and fight it. So I don't necessarily think that the game will be decided in the bot lane. If Misfits win, yes, I don't think that has to be the case for Fnatic, but there will definitely be things going down in the bot lane because Fnatic have shown that as soon as people show up there, they are willing to TP.
Okay, who has more tools to win this game, and why are they going to win?
I voted Fnatic.
I mean, I have Fnatic too. I think overall they have a much more cohesive strategy. They've got players in all positions really performing at the moment, and I don't think the same is true.
One game sample.
My concern was for Misfits team fighting. We still really haven't gotten a look at it because games are happening so quickly that they didn't need to go into a team fight phase, whereas Fnatic showed that they were playing the early game. We know that their team fighting is still clear. So from the tape that I have, I feel like Fnatic are the better all-round team right now.
If you can't tell, we're pretty hyped about this matchup. So Misfits and Fnatic, they got the win yesterday, but are they truly back to their former selves? This game will certainly give us some answers. Take it away.
Yes, it will. Sjokz and Frosk and Ender. I remember their names this time. That's more impressive than usual. We are just waiting to get the game kicked off. But before we do, both you and I, yesterday watching the games, really wanted to highlight the junglers from both of these teams. Broxah and Maxlore had incredible games setting up their teams for success.
Yeah, I was really impressed with how Broxah played around Nemesis in their first game yesterday, largely because I felt that the only way that Fnatic could win games last split was basically play around bot side, put Nemesis on Lissandra, maybe get Bwipo a counter pick if he's lucky, but then team fight, like just 5v5. And then, oh wow, Rekkles is really good at League of Legends, so that's how we win games. And then I felt like when they went to Rotterdam, it got heavily exposed, so coming into this split, we kind of wanted to see change. And, you know, it was a little concerning when we heard things like, well, we're bringing in a sub-jungler, we want Dan to have playtime as well. And many people were like, well, was Broxah the problem? Is he the guy that's actually not allowing you to change your playstyle? But then Broxah and Rekkles cleared some of that up for us. They helped alleviate and realize that Dan just brings a slightly different playstyle. He's a really good player that deserves an opportunity to play on the LEC stage. And what we saw was that whatever Dan and Broxah have been cooking up behind the scenes, it is definitely some tasty stuff, you know? Like, he played around Nemesis extremely well. Nemesis had a great carry performance. They finally overcame their curse of playing up against SK, and it was that duo that ultimately enabled Fnatic to find their win yesterday.
It definitely was, and it was Maxlore and Sama, that duo, that enabled Misfits to take their win yesterday as well. Maxlore actually played a lot stronger than we've seen him do in a very long time in the jungle for Misfits, and we saw them almost revert to their playstyle they had at the start of Spring Split. Play through the bottom lane, get Sama and Gorilla ahead, and then use that advantage to snowball a lead.
But it was almost like they took play through bottom lane to the next level. It was almost like hard invest. Whatever money we have, just put it into the bot lane and make sure that it thrives. And they did certainly make it thrive. They invested teleports, they made multiple dives happen. They zoned the enemy bot lane literally away from every single wave possible. Like, what was it? There was like a 60 CS differential at like 15 minutes. It was unbelievable how much pressure they applied to the bot lane, and really Rogue had no answers. The question is, will Misfits try to replicate that style, or will they try to carry through their other members? sOAZ and Febiven, these are two players that I felt like received a decent amount of criticism last split, and I think it's fair to say that it was warranted, especially when the teams very much struggled and ended up 8th by the end of the split.
I definitely agree, and I think Misfits agreed because they brought in both Kyrie and Leader. So no sub for sOAZ at the moment, but they brought in the sub for Maxlore and a sub for
Well, they brought in the 10-man roster, right?
Yes, that's true. That's
ultimately, everyone can be switched in and out, but I think that many fans and many analysts are looking at those two players in particular, Kyrie and Leader, to be the ones to potentially move up if any changes were to happen. In any case, we are jumping into draft for Misfits versus Fnatic. The crowd is clearly excited to see both these teams back on the board, and immediately the cat and the spider will be taken off the board.
And Draven taken away from Sama as well. No real surprises here from the first Fnatic ban. Jarvan removed from the pool as well. Where else are we looking? Because things like Aurelia, Ryze, and Sylas jump to mind.
Well, right now, Misfits are just taking away some of these power picks that they don't want to have to deal with. Ooh, the Renekton, so they want to deny Bwipo one of those strong top lane matchups. Does suggest that sOAZ is probably going to get the short end of the stick when it comes to the draft this time around. Will we put on something a little bit more defensive? And we'll see what kind of direction that they go for. Wouldn't be surprised right now if we saw Misfits prioritizing a champion like the Sylas or the Ryze.
Or the Aatrox.
They're going to take it away from Bwipo.
Yeah.
All right, then.
Bwipo was well known for his Aatrox play in spring. Picked up here by Misfits. First time either of these teams have seen it in a game this split.
Now, Sonatarek available, Ryze is available. A lot of strong power picks are up and free. The great thing about Ryze is he can be flexed between both mid and top.
There's so much available here, though.
Yeah,
like,
Sylas they
is
could grab
still up
as well if they wanted to, but they don't really need to because Ryze is considered a very solid pick into the Sylas. So Fnatic could sit there and say, well, we're fine actually now taking the Ryze and grabbing ourselves like a strong early game jungler. Maybe they want to get themselves the Rek'Sai. They could also go for Sejuani. Yeah. Olaf is kind of another option that I think they could go for, depending on how much early game power that they want.
It's just really intriguing to see so much power left up in the draft here. Xayah locked in by Fnatic. Don't expect Misfits always to go for the Rakan here because Rakan by himself is nowhere near as strong as in that Lovers duo.
To me, it feels like both teams are actually trying to deny a lot of picks from each other. So the moment that the Aatrox was locked in, Fnatic were like, okay, they actually want us to pick the Ryze and maybe a jungler right now so that they can get Xayah Rakan and guarantee a strong 2v2 bot side. So we're actually going to take that away. So now Misfits are saying, all right, well, we'll grab ourselves the Sylas. Yeah, they could be pretty happy with this. And remember, they can still be flexed between mid and top. And it looks like Misfits are actually going to prioritize that strong support. Well, they will have Ring Yasta. I think that would have made a lot of sense into the Rakan, which is what they expect. Let's see what direction they go.
Don't get baited, guys. I know it's early on in the season. We have to reteach some of these lessons. You don't get baited by pick and ban hovers. It's not the Donga. It's going to be something else, and perhaps something we haven't seen on the LEC stage. Lux support picked up here, we expect, for Gorilla.
Now, those picks to watch fans would have seen it coming into MSI.
What's picks to watch?
It's a great show that educates fans on potential picks that we could see in pro play.
Let's jump right in.
One of those champions that we did highlight in picks to watch was this Lux support. It's been very prevalent over in the LCK. It's been a very big, powerful pick. We'll talk a lot more about it when we get into game. But it's often picked into this Rakan as well, and we'll explain a little bit more once we jump into game, but let's now move into the second phase of bans.
And we're going to see some of those junglers taken out of the pool. The Sejuani removed by Fnatic themselves. Misfits here looking to see if they want to get rid of some of those split push threats in the form of the Jace.
I wouldn't be surprised if Misfits actually banned away the Fiora as well. It's something that the LCK love to play as an answer to the Aatrox. Meanwhile, Fnatic, they could look to just continue pinching out the jungle pool, because remember that they do have priority down towards the bot side of the map. They have priority in the draft, which means that they could first pick a jungler, meaning that Misfits would kind of be left out to dry in kind of what direction they wanted to go.
Well, we'll see if that's what Fnatic decide to do. You expect it, you want a solo laner counter pick for your last pick, usually, when we get into these drafts. The Ezreal is the next ban from Fnatic, getting rid of a bit of that safety, a bit of the disengage potential for
Summer. The Rek'Sai.
Rek'Sai removed by Misfits, so expect Fnatic to pick up one of those powerful junglers.
I wonder if Fnatic now go for the Olaf. Oh, no. Instead, I think they may go for the conventional Broxah pick, the Lee Sin down towards the bot side. I keep saying bot side of the draft.
It is the bot side of the draft, Betty. It's all like, it's the lower third of the screen.
Broxah on his fabled champion in the Lee Sin. Very excited to see him back on that very early game focus. Right now, they have a lot of playmaking options around the bot side of the map. The question is, how will Misfits answer? Will we see something like the Skarner, perhaps? Could we potentially see the Olaf as a counter? We could even see something like the Nocturne as a means of trying to deal with the Lee Sin. I think
like that, wouldn't you?
Maxlore has a couple of options, perhaps going more of the LPL style answer with the Xin Zhao as a strong early game matchup.
Strong 2v2 in the mid lane if you do pick up the Xin Zhao. Skarner the hover at the moment. I like the Sivir pick into Rakan. Pretty easy to use your spell shield to dodge out the grand entrance, and it will be Skarner locked in here for Maxlore.
So a very speedy Scorpion in this game with both the Sivir and the, you would imagine, Predator boots that are going to be sitting on top of Maxlore. He's going to be one of the primary engage tools. Now we'll see how Fnatic round out their draft. Remember that this Ryze can be flexed to both top and mid. Bit of a cheeky hover coming out from the side of Fnatic. Will they lock it in?
I would love a Kled pick, but instead it's going to be the Jax. A bit of a gauntlet being laid down here by Fnatic. Jax very strong as he scales through the game, but can be shut down in the early game.
So, I mean, the cool thing about Jax is kind of a different answer to what the LCK have. We already talked about the Fiora scaling very well off onto a side lane. champions that have a lot of mobility and can also just hit you a lot faster than the Aatrox can typically do very well into the Aatrox. So things like Fiora and the Jax do very well. As you rightly said, in the early game, it's not a very oppressive matchup, but once it completes that Trinity Force, that Jax is going to be a lot scarier in the 1 versus 1. So Fnatic going for very much a 1-3-1 team fight, 1-3-1 style of play with a couple of team fight options because they still have the Xayah Rakan. There's a lot of AoE damage from the side of Ryze. Meanwhile, for Misfits, definitely much more catered towards the team fight style. A lot of pick power in their composition as well with things like the Lux, the Skarner to catch targets out of position, and that can be very valuable against split push comps when they're trying to generate pressure on the side. You can quickly run up, find that pick, and then regroup with the rest of your team.
That you can. An exciting game, I'm sure. A lot of those strong picks we've been seeing fanned out through the pick-bound phase have worked their way through. Sylas, Aatrox, Lux support coming out as well. The Ryze in the hands of Nemesis. And Broxah on his signature Lee Sin. I'm pretty sure this is going to be a very fun game to watch, especially since both teams are off to a winning start with their 1-0 record. Neither team really challenged too much yesterday. I think this is their first chance to prove themselves. It's my first time casting this split of the LEC, and Fnatic have set up a death bush in their own jungle by their own tower.
Will anything come of it? Rekkles acting as bait right now. Ooh, look at me. I am a helpless bird. Why don't you come and attack me?
See, I just look at it as like protein. Get the protein.
But the rest of Fnatic sitting behind being like, a sneaky trap. We are lying in wait, protecting our pretty little bird.
Do you ever wonder if this happens in nature? Like, there's a lion setting up a trap for you somewhere in the world, but because you're not near the lion, not actually caught out.
It's true. I'm right now outplaying a lion so hard.
Good job, guys. Good job.
They think they've got me. I don't even know that I'm outplaying them, and I'm just winning super, super hard. Anyway, enough about lions. Let's talk about Lux support. Lux support has been seen a lot over in the LCK. In particular, it's been picked pretty often into the Rakan. The reasons why Lux support is even a thing in pro play is because of the shift to Aftershock and how it naturally makes a Lux surprisingly tanky once she's able to land her Q. On top of that, she synergizes very nicely with things like Athene's Unholy Grail. Because you generate a lot of poke with your abilities, your shield, your W, can actually be used to not only further enhance your shielding, but as well as that, it can act as a heal too, because of the synergy with Athene's Unholy Grail. And why it's a pretty solid pick into Rakan is, Rakan kind of works in lines. Remember that when he tries to W into you, it's usually in a straight line, or it's in a single direction, and when he E's back again, you know it's going to go towards the champion, which means that you can actually often land those bindings. It's a little more telegraphed. And on top of that, when you see him jump back to an ally, if you land it onto the Rakan, there's a good chance you're going to land that Q onto the enemy AD as well. So there's a lot of pick power, and I think that it can be a very solid answer. But if you miss those bindings, she's still a very squishy support that can very quickly be burst down.
Yeah, so whenever you see Gorilla pop out a Q like that, he will then step back unless they find a catch, because he knows that the Rakan can jump straight onto him. There's a little bit of beautiful symmetry going on in this game. Vedius, guess when the last time Lux was played in the bottom lane in the LEC?
Tell me.
It was week 1, day 2, Summer Split 2018.
Wow.
It was Attila. Played it with a Pike.
Oh, I remember that game.
They won the game.
Yes, I do remember that
Fnatic
game.
fans, maybe a bit of faith for you here. Broxah coming towards the mid lane. Nemesis lands the root prison, and Broxah's on the board. 1-0 Fnatic.
Once again, Broxah playing around mid lane, but that was all Nemesis. He was the one getting all that great poke and chip damage down onto Febiven. He was the one setting up the play, and he was the one that allowed Broxah to find that first blood, and Fnatic lead with the gold.
Really well played by Nemesis there. Have to remember, he only joined the LEC this year. Febiven, a veteran of many a year, being to the LCS and back again. And he got outplayed by his opposing mid.
And what confidence we're seeing from Nemesis as well. If we think back to last split, all I remember him for was his Lissandra games. The games where, hey, he had pretty solid performances. Hey, he got a KO pentakill at one point. I remember that too. But outside of that, he wasn't really the guy that was jumping in your face, trying to make these plays. But already this split, we have not only seen Broxah trying to enable him, but we have seen some very commanding performances from him. And many Fnatic fans must be happy. After the departure of Caps, many wondered if his shoes could be filled. So far, Nemesis is doing a great job in the Summer Split. So you can see, Febiven just takes too much harass in the early laning phase. He's trying to push up the wave, but Nemesis using his range advantage, using the decent amount of mana and the low mana cost of his abilities early on to just poke Febiven down, and he sets up that play to find an early kill.
And there's even more poke for Nemesis available now as he's got the tier teleported back into the lane, can just spam out those spells and get stacking even quicker on that Ryze. Meanwhile, in the bottom lane, just a little bit of trading action as to be expected. It's very hard to see exactly how fights will go in this bottom lane because it feels like whoever gets the first engage will usually take the fight.
Yeah, sorry, I kind of just realized that it's Hansama playing Sivir.
Yeah.
Right? Like, well, that's not what we typically see from Hansama. When we think about this guy as a player, it's usually things like the Dravens and the Lucians and even the Xayahs, the early game. Ooh.
The man who replaced sOAZ gets a bit of help from his jungler, but sOAZ tries to turn it back around. Broxah there, forcing sOAZ away. Sonic Wave connects, and Broxah has his second kill on the board.
Beautiful stuff there from Broxah. Okay, when we get into the replay, I want to highlight something that Broxah did that was really, really cool. Very close from the side of sOAZ to be able to turn that one around, but unfortunately it is not enough. Broxah finds his second kill of the game, and Fnatic are in commanding control of this early game. Great stuff from the side of Fnatic.
Broxah showing us why he is seen, was seen by many analysts as the best player on Fnatic in the Spring Split. Now highlight this very cool thing, Vedi.
All right, so you can see Bwipo taking a lot of damage in the early game. He does have a level advantage, but it doesn't matter. All that damage goes down. Now, keep your eyes on Broxah in this situation. He's going to land the Q, and then he's going to use a ward just there. Oh. Now, I wanted to give him the benefit of the doubt and say I think that he used it so that he could try and bait out a knock-up so that his Q wouldn't be interrupted, but I think he may have also just misclicked.
I mean, it's possible. It looked like a very good play, though, as Broxah comes up towards the top side once again, and sOAZ is a punching bag. Second death of the game. We're only 6 minutes in. We'll see how many are short to follow.
Yeah, beautiful stuff from Broxah. This guy is on a tear right now. This is what an early game Lee Sin should look like. And Broxah, he wanted to prove himself going into this play. He wanted to showcase that Fnatic didn't need another jungler. And so far, he's doing an amazing job.
He really is. You can see, once again, just knows sOAZ is teleported back into the lane, has no summoners, and it's a very easy gank for the Lee Sin.
It's a classic solo Q loop-de-loop. You make one gank, you think there's no way the jungler will come back again. He loops back around, and there he is. You. Yeah, he does. The loop-de-loop, there's very little you can do against it. And sOAZ now, this early game Aatrox had a lot of pressure. So, I mean, you can already see the massive CS advantage that he's already built up. But the 2 kills that have been gained from the side of Fnatic mean that sOAZ doesn't have as big of the lead as he would have liked.
And the question we asked coming into Pick and Ban was which jungler would have more impact for his team? Would it be Broxah? Would it be Maxlore? Yesterday, both of them had very good games, but already we see this game that Broxah is the one coming out ahead.
Now, we have to remember that Maxlore on this Skarner, level 6 is really when this champion comes into its own, and even though a lot of pressure is going up towards topside, Maxlore wasn't doing nothing. He secured the Drake for his team, and he's slowly scaling up. He's got himself the Predator boots, and now he has hit that level 6 mark. Okay. So, where will he look to gank? Will he look to play around the top side, or will he maybe try to set up a play in mid? He has a couple of options available to him, but with no flash on Bwipo, I feel like that would be one of the best places for him to go.
Broxah with 6 as well, looking up towards this top side. Bwipo forcing sOAZ away. Maxlore clears out his Grom. Broxah's just chasing him around as much. Yes, they see each other.
But they don't know that they
don't know.
Or they do know that the other one knows that they know.
Let's not get into known knowns and known unknowns, Vedius. That is a big kettle of fish. Hylissang actually coming up here towards the mid lane, teaming up with Nemesis to try and get that push on. Rekkles has been forced back down towards bottom side, but because it's a Sivir, you're not really getting too much of a lead. Even if the light binding was going to connect on towards Rekkles, he's got his flash, he's got his ultimate, he has enough tools to get away from a fight.
Speaking of Rekkles, he's doing very well in the 1 versus 2. Held on to that light CS advantage. Meanwhile, the pressure continues in the top side. Broxah with the flash kick.
Straight onto sOAZ. sOAZ pops the ultimate, but you need a takedown to get that revive. Maxlore trying to get there in time, has the impale, but Bwipo on his way as well. Will be forced back. sOAZ survives for now.
So Maxlore doesn't want to overcommit on the play. He's aware that Nemesis has the Realm Warp and that Nemesis is also a level ahead of Febiven along with Bwipo making his way down towards the lane. So for now, they'll just keep their top laner alive, but again, Broxah is just not slowing down. He's heavily playing through this Jax. He knows that he wants to have him strong in a side lane.
Oh, final spark. Hylissang healed up. Rekkles will keep his support alive for the moment, but you can see the damage that the Lux puts out if you land a light binding in this bottom lane. Hylissang forced very low.
Yeah, this early on, that was a surprising amount of damage, but that just showcases how squishy this Rakan can be at early levels without those items. Now Maxlore looking for his first gank of the game. Hanging around mid lane in the fog of war. Nemesis does still have flash up, but the stun lands.
Gonna land the apprehend. Nemesis flashes away. Gets underneath his tower, and Misfits happy enough with that summon being burnt.
Yeah, Febiven had no mana left, so even though Maxlore could have flashed and dragged Nemesis back into range, Misfits probably decided, you know what, we don't have the damage because you won't have any of your abilities available, so instead, we'll just call it quits. We'll be happy with the flash. We'll look for a play a little bit later on.
Well, 10 minutes into the game, Fnatic do have that 1,500 gold lead. All of it really coming through Broxah's early game pathing from his ability to gank this top lane over and over and over again. You can see Bwipo, even though he's 20 CS behind, actually has a 400 gold lead on this Jax.
And it's all thanks to that support that Broxah has given him. Bwipo in the interview yesterday, he said that you know, he does what his team needs. If he's left on an island, then he's just got to accept it and he'll do his best. But he's getting all the resources now, and while he's not picking up the kills, pressure will fall on him to be one of the big carries of this game. Rekkles and Hylissang just being left to their own devices towards the bot side of the map. Look again at Broxah, already hanging around the mid lane, looking for another potential gank, but eyes have spotted Maxlore on the Rift Herald. Fnatic do not want to give this one up for free. Both bottom lanes rotating.
Could be a 5v5 flash. Impale lands straight onto Nemesis. The final spot comes out. Nemesis able to dodge away from the side. Hylissang there. Realm Warp used as well, but already Nemesis down. Hylissang goes golden. It's a 1-for-1 trade as Misfits and Fnatic bite in the river. Second kill. sOAZ jumping in. Rekkles caught out, but able to flash away. Misfits get 2 and only lose 1.
That flash from sOAZ looked personal. He dived onto the backline, looked to lock down Rekkles, but a really good route from Rekkles allows him to flash to safety. Ultimately ends in, I believe, a 2-for-1 in favor of Misfits.
This is so smart from Gorilla because he knows Broxah's on this side of the map. He comes over to try and protect his top laner. But here is Broxah. Gorilla caught out just a little bit, able to get underneath the tower and keep sOAZ safe. Lucent Singularity does not connect the slow onto Bwipo. He still has his flash as well, so he's pretty safe in this top lane.
Fast-paced game between the two teams. Very much what we expected based off what we saw from the two junglers yesterday. But I wasn't expecting such a big fight around the Rift Herald this early on. Where are both bot laners going? Hanzo actually went back to bot to catch the wave. You would imagine he's now going to move up towards the top side of the map, maybe even mid. But no, they have the Ryze set back towards the bottom lane. The pings are coming down towards the Drake. That's going to be the next primary objective that both these teams look to play around. In the meantime, Febiven going to catch the mid wave. sOAZ going to go back to top. He still has his TP available. Bwipo does not.
Important thing to note, alongside the kills, Fnatic have been picking up plate after plate from the Misfits lineup. 3 plates in that top lane, a couple in mid as well. I think bot's still pretty even on 5 apiece, but that gives Fnatic this 2,000 gold lead or so as we get towards the map opening up just a little bit more.
So it's right now setting up vision control around the bot side river. You can see a single control ward in that brush, but there are 3 for Misfits right now, so they have control around the Baron again. sOAZ has teleport, so this is the better situation for Misfits to be in. They should be the ones to try and force the play right now because they know they can create a numbers advantage and they have much better vision to find a collapse onto Fnatic.
Big thing is, though, Hylissang has the quickness and has his flash, and there's hardly a flash available for Misfits. So if a fight does start and Hylissang's able to position properly, it could be disaster for Misfits.
Now look at that TP timer from Bwipo. It's going to be up very, very soon. Fnatic just want to buy time for that, or maybe they just want to try and trade it to the other side of the map. Look at where Hylissang is right now, setting up for a dive on towards the top side. Bwipo is looking for a play.
Bwipo in there. Hylissang comes in with the quickness as well. The charm going to land onto sOAZ and doesn't have a way to get away. The World Ender will not save him for long as Bwipo hits him in the back. And Misfits will get the Mountain Drake, but they're not really getting too much more out of it. First tower will fall in the top lane, you have to think, for Fnatic. Alongside getting this Rift Tail, they come out well on top.
I like the decision making here from Fnatic. Why contest the Drake? We can get something elsewhere. Let's just continue to snowball Bwipo. He uses his flash to set up the plane, knowing that sOAZ doesn't have his flash anymore. Hylissang is there to support him with additional CC. And on top of that, Broxah knows that he has numbers to mean that no one from the side of Misfits can contest. Feels like both teams are very quick on the decision making. They know exactly what they want to do. But unfortunately for Misfits, it is sOAZ that is continuing to struggle. It is he who's being left out to dry. And while Summer is picking up these plates, Fnatic is the one trying to generate pressure elsewhere.
And you're going to look at 10 plates here from Fnatic at least. They get another 4 in the mid lane. This will be the final of those 10 if they can get it before the timer runs out. Yeah, 10 plates for Fnatic, it looks like, as they get the final auto in. A 3,000 gold lead for our third place team from the spring split. And we wondered if they could have the same sort of performance as they did yesterday against SK. Well, they're looking pretty strong right now.
They certainly are, and a lot of it is off the back of Broxah. So good charm there from Hylissang, combined with the CC from Bwipo. sOAZ almost escapes over the wall, but he didn't have his flash available. He was only relying on the dash, and unfortunately it just wasn't up in time, or he couldn't get to the wall in time, rather. So Fnatic doing a great job so far. Misfits doing what they can. Remember that they're still very much going towards that team fight later on. They do have a lot of pick options, so when the map opens up a lot more, their composition is a little scarier when there's pockets of darkness. Remember, like, the best case scenario for Misfits is they've gained control over the river. Fnatic were like, ooh, we want to try and get some vision around this area. Bang, Maxlore flashes out of nowhere, a binding hits you, and then suddenly you've lost a member and you can no longer contest the objective. So that's why I think it was smart from Fnatic to not even try and contest the mountain, especially when they had no vision of it. And that's why you can see Fnatic, whenever Misfits group in one location, Fnatic try to go elsewhere, because they're like, we're not going to run the risk of getting picked off, because that's exactly what your comp wants to do right now.
Fnatic spreading out into that 1-3-1, and with Bwipo being so strong with the Trinity Force already complete, they know that sOAZ can't really face him in the one-on-one. The QSS tax has been paid by Nemesis in the mid lane, means that if he's impaled, he will have a way to get away from it, but there's so much follow-up CC. You're looking at the Sylas, the Aatrox knockup, you've got the light binding as well from the Lux, so if you get caught out with one thing, unless you're very quick on the trigger, you're likely to get caught out completely.
So Fnatic are the ones that have been in control for the majority of the game.
That's true.
Misfits have just kind of answered a lot of the plays. Now, admittedly, you know, when you compare the Lee Sin to the Skarner, that is typically going to happen. sOAZ continues to get just capped.
Dived over and over again, dodged away from the charm there, actually. Well played there by sOAZ to get back underneath his tower, but it means that Bwipo gets free time on the turret, and it means that sOAZ is losing that CS. Maxlore playing towards the mid lane here, actually doing something on another part of the map.
So while Fnatic play towards the side lanes, Misfits see an opportunity in the mid. Rekkles is not strong enough to hold this by himself, so that will be conceded, and Misfits gain a little bit more map control back in their favor. They'll now look to set up a bit more deep vision so they can try and utilize this pick power that the composition does have. And remember, we're still kind of working towards that scaling point. When you're running a Sivir composition, you always have great team fighting. Aatrox has a lot of AoE damage, and even though he's at a deficit, he's still going to offer value. Just he kind of wants that first item to be finished before Misfits even try to consider a fight. So for the time being, I think Misfits is fine. It's not completely dire for them yet.
The room isn't on fire yet.
Yes, it's just you're concerned because you see this Jax level 12 QSS completed on top of the Trinity Force, and you're like, I don't know if we can match him in a side lane. And so they need to quickly get to the point where they're ready to team fight, and then they need to force a team fight before Fnatic gains so much control that you can't even force team fights.
So they're looking for the Black Cleaver complete on sOAZ, we expect. Do you need 2 items on the Sivir as well, or 2 items on the Sylas, or can you just force as soon as you get that Black Cleaver spike?
I mean, preferably you want the 2 items on both Summer and Febiven. But they might have to fight a little bit earlier, depending on how afraid of Bwipo they are. Right now, there are no objectives on the map for them to really fight around, so you're just going to see a lot of farming, a lot of vision trade coming back and forth. My question is, where will Misfits look to try and attack? Because remember that both side lanes are being pressured by the side of Fnatic, and one of the strengths, I think, of Skarner is how quickly he can like run into a lane and force that pick, create a 2 versus 2, and do they even think they could win a 2 versus 1 potentially if it's sOAZ and Maxlore versus Bwipo?
That's the big question, especially since Bwipo has a QSS for himself now as well. It makes it even safer, and it might sound a lot like we're talking from Misfits' perspective, but that's because they're the team that have to make the play. Fnatic will be very happy sitting in this 1-3-1 now. It looks like Misfits might be trying to do something as they teleport behind Nemesis up towards this top side. The Realm Warp stolen away by Febiven. Nemesis trying to get away as well, but sOAZ is there waiting in the wings. Inferno Drake goes down towards Bwipo, down towards the bottom side, and Nemesis just able to escape with his Realm Warp.
But this is exactly what you want a split pusher to do. Draw pressure to him so that you can take advantages elsewhere on the map. So while Misfits tried to make a play, they gain nothing. Meanwhile, Fnatic, they grab themselves an Infernal Drake.
And that was the teleport expended by Misfits. However, they do now have control of this top side of the map. And I've seen Misfits go for a desperation ban before. I remember the Sjokz game from last year. It's not outside of their wheelhouse. I'd like them to go for this tower instead, and it looks like that's their first objective.
So there's no pressure on the bot side, which means the Misfits should be pretty free to take this tower, on top of the fact that mid has already been pushed in. And note how the Sivir has gone back to base, both the Aatrox and the Lux are also going back to base. So good tower pickup from the side of Misfits. That will now be all outer towers, which means that the map is a lot more opened up, which means that their ability to get slightly deeper vision has been opened up as well. Meanwhile, Fnatic, they'll continue to sit in the side lanes. Bwipo's teleport has just come up. He also has his flash, so he's happier to be like slightly further away from the rest of his team.
As we come up towards the 20-minute mark, it's still Fnatic very much in control. 2,500 gold lead. Bwipo is about 2,000 gold ahead of sOAZ. Every other lane pretty much even. I mean, Broxah has about 1,000 gold lead in the jungle as well, but that's to be expected when he has 4-0-0 as his KDA. Once again showing us just why he is such a strong jungler here in the LEC.
Let's have a look. Misfits right now setting up a bit of a trap in the top side river, looking for a pick. We talked a lot about this from the side of Misfits. They've spotted their target.
Do they
go
win
for
the 3v2? Because Bwipo's there. The Spire taken actually is very big for Fnatic as well, because it means Maxlore has a lot less pressure in the skirmish if they go for it. Less attack speed, less mana regeneration, a lot harder for him to actually get the damage down that he might contribute to a team fight. And for now, the trap was set and it wasn't sprung by the Fnatic members. Misfits will want to try and regain some vision control around this Baron, and you do feel maybe a few bits of smoke, a few wisps of smoke are coming under the door here for Misfits. We said the room wasn't on fire. I can start to smell a bit of sulfur burning.
Well, I see that that gauntlet being picked up for Bwipo. You would imagine he's working towards the Steraks. That would be the direction that he goes for, and once he completes that, that's when I get scared of Jax, because not only does he have damage, he's also like really tanky. Because remember the bonus resistances that he gets from his ultimate, on top of the fact that he now has all this health, you're like, oh no, he can literally 2v1 us. He's also level 14, which is pretty scary considering sOAZ is only level 12. And I just think like props to Fnatic to playing around this side lane very effectively in the early game. And I mean, it's great that Broxah found that first blood kill in mid, but I don't think that was ever the plan. Like, that was just a happy coincidence. But like, they've done a really good job of not only shutting sOAZ down, but enabling Bwipo and demonstrating that they have multiple styles. They can play through their solo laners, which is kind of the expectation and demand now on Misfits, because while they have shown that they can play through their bot lane, can they do it through their solo laners? And right now, the expectation is that they don't need their solo laners to carry, but they're going to be very important as team fights start to approach.
sOAZ fighting Nemesis here. He's already very low. Maxwell coming in. Immediate gets the suppression in with the Impale. Bwipo with the teleport, but he is not supported by his team. Misfits find the pick they wanted down towards the bottom lane. And now we'll see what they decide to do. Baron is on the cards if they want it, but with only a man advantage, it might be a little bit risky.
But this is a very important pick for Misfits. Not only does it help sOAZ in terms of gold, but they may even look for another one. Here we go. Can they get the 1v2?
No Impale on Maxlore, no ult on sOAZ. Bwipo is going to get stunned up with that auto attack, but immediately uses the QSS. Febiven stolen away the ult. No chase potential left for Misfits, and Bwipo will be able to jump away. Didn't have to burn his flash there, importantly.
Yeah, Maxlore didn't have the ultimate, so locking Bwipo down was going to be very difficult. He also has the QSS, so that's always going to be difficult as well. Oh, he actually ended up using it in that fight as well.
Yeah, he used it from the Crystalline Stun.
Ah, yes. Excellent point. Good spot there, Detective. Now,
It's Doctor, actually.
now, the thing is, the reason why that's important for Misfits is they didn't lose anything, and they found that pick, right? So not only does it give a bit of gold and experience back to sOAZ, but also relieves pressure, which means that the rest of Misfits can reset, they can pick up some wards, they can gain a little bit more control over the map, and they might even find another pick onto Broxah, but nope, he has enough mobility to just slide and glide out of that one. But now they need to keep finding these picks, right? They need to advance their vision even further into the enemy jungle. They need to start threatening the rest of Fnatic, who right now are grouping up, and this is kind of the best situation for Misfits.
But Nemesis is up towards the top lane split, pushing by himself. He still has the teleport, whereas Bwipo does not. So with an Infernal Drake coming up soon, Fnatic said, well, we'll keep all of our players that need to be together.
Here we go, we're getting a
teleport
fight.
coming in. The fight's going to start. sOAZ has the flank position here. Febiven on the Infernal Drake, splashing onto Bwipo. Dragon taken by Misfits, but the fight continues. Misfits look like they're in the ascendancy here. Hylissang falls low. 2 kills already. Summer gets the double, and the chase continues. Febiven pushing forward. Rekkles pulls back the arrows, but Summer with a triple. Nemesis trying to do what he can, but the golden stopwatch from Summer stops Fnatic in their tracks. Misfits with a monumental teamfight.
Summer shows that, hey Rekkles, I can play Sivir too. Picks himself up the triple kill and walks away a happy AD carry. Misfits back on the board. The gold has been equalized, and Fnatic, they go for a fight that they did not win.
The first 3 kills of the game for Summer. This is his view. This is how he saw that team fight and how Misfits came out on top.
Right, boys, let's watch that right clicking. You can see that his positioning in the back of the Dragon Pit. No one is threatening him right now, and he's just focusing whoever is in front of him.
This is the big one.
He's then going to flash in, go for Hylissang. He knows that he gets to get to secure the kill. And then in this point, he's like, okay, I can't win this 1v1. I'm going to throw out the stopwatch, and I'm going to walk away just fine. He's now going to pick up the Infinity Edge, and this is exactly what Fnatic didn't want to do, go for a 5v5 fight. I feel like that their decision-making in the moment was a little all over the place because it felt like that they were diving to maybe secure the dragon. Maybe they wanted to dive the backline, but because Misfits were grouped up into this small choke point in this narrow area, all the AoE damage that was coming out from the likes of Summer and Febiven was enough to turn around the fight in their favor.
And I think there's a few people now who are looking at Misfits with a much more positive outlook. We asked if they were just going to do exactly what they've done in the past and play through bot lane. That didn't really happen this game. Froskurinn on the AD, can they teamfight? Well, I think they've just shown us that they can definitely teamfight at least once a game, and now they can start getting some pressure into this Fnatic jungle. The gold is pretty much even. The game seems on a knife edge.
So, we talked a lot about Misfits because they were the ones in the behind and how they needed to come back. Now, Fnatic is the one behind, and they're trying to force a fight.
Gorilla there off towards the side, Bwipo on him, but Broxah's forced very low on the backline. sOAZ going in with the world ender, kicked away. Bwipo caught out with the final spark. Rekkles, though, has taken down Maxlore. sOAZ still going in with the chase, the realm warp. The knockups are coming out, and you cannot escape sOAZ. You cannot escape the Misfits. Nemesis takes down 2 in response, though. Rekkles running into the wrong jungle as Misfits go for the chase.
Rekkles keeps Fnatic's hopes alive as it ends up being a 3v3 between the two teams.
Oh,
Flash from Gorilla.
Rekkles has a QSS. Gorilla goes golden. It's all on Summer. You've got to get the autos out. The ricochet does not bounce. He's going to continue the chase.
Bot lane on bot lane, and it looks like that it's Misfits bot lane that comes out on top. Misfits find 4. They walk away the victors in this fight. But Fnatic have said, you know what? We need to go for more fights. We need to try and challenge Misfits. And I feel like that was a very dangerous play to make. The fact that they tried to force that up against Misfits, who we know is in the stronger 5v5 position. Like, we were just about to talk about what Fnatic need to do to come back into this game, how they need to regain control. And I was going to say, oh, they need to split up the map. They want to try and play towards their side lanes. They just want to give the freedom for the Jax to split push because he's really strong in the 1v1. Like, that was the direction I was going to go. And then just as I start, they were just like, team fight, team fight, team fight, team fight.
It almost worked out for them. Gorilla here going to land nothing onto Bwipo as he walks straight past.
Nice pivot, nice pivot.
Thank you very much. Rekkles has picked up a QSS. We saw it used in that last fight, but you have an item advantage on Summer.
All right, no time for replay. They started the Baron. Here we go. Fnatic in a position where they have no vision control, but at least in one of the best Baron stealers in the game.
4,000 HP left on the Baron. Broxah off towards the side, puts in a control ward. They can see that HP bar now. Febiven going in, stolen away. Jack's ultimate. Broxah still in position to jump in. Rekkles is going down towards the bottom lane. He's not with the team. Bwipo jumps forward. There goes Broxah as well. Oh! Away! Fnatic take the Baron. Misfits will take a few kills off this. But what can Fnatic do with this Baron? They pick up 3. And meanwhile, Nemesis and Rekkles are down towards that bottom lane.
Pings are going up towards the top side of the map. Febiven is going to go back to base because he doesn't want to lose his base. Misfits, we've seen this from them before. The Barons that have cost them so many games in the past. On the bright side, they come out with kills, and they should even be able to break into the base of Fnatic, but it is still Fnatic to walk away with the Baron. This split push composition has this objective that they can use to come back into the game and reclaim control.
700 gold the difference, and Misfits are setting up a Fnatic bush. No one oversteps so they don't catch anyone out, but could have been a bit of a hairy moment there for Rekkles if he'd gone too far. Let's have another look at this last Baron still, because it's Bwipo that gets it in the end.
So I actually love the decision making here from Fnatic, where they're like, okay, we see that the Baron is on 2k HP. We have to try and burst it ourselves. So Bwipo, Hylissang, come into the pit with me. So they dive in. You can see that Bwipo doesn't actually get any stuns. He's just focusing on damaging the Baron. So with Broxah and Bwipo, the combined duo, they're like, all right, just burst it, burst it, burst it. And they actually do enough damage to take it away from Misfits. So they can't stall anything out. They can't deny Broxah entry into the pit. And it allows Fnatic to secure that objective and keep the game hilariously close.
It's so close. This is the barnstormer of a game, Vedius. So after Fnatic got that lead, I was expecting 1-3-1 to death. And this didn't happen. Misfits were able to find a couple of fights. You've got Sivir, Summer, 7-0-5 now. Almost at 300, just hit 300 CS. You have Febiven sitting at 4-2-7 with Luden, Zhonya's, and the Proto Belt finish. Gorilla coming in here to try and stop Bwipo. sOAZ actually using the World Ender very early here. Febiven still on the chase. Bwipo with the QSS is going to flash the wall, but Maxlore has the Predator, and he's going to pull you right back into the jaws of hell as Misfits go 4 against 1 in the top lane. They'll take the kill, and Fnatic lose their split push threat.
So Bwipo trades his life for a tower. And Fnatic, they push in both side lanes. Unfortunately, they can't get anything more off the back of that. And in an ideal world, Bwipo would have bought more time for his team to set up for the mid-tier tier 2 and maybe threaten another objective. But for now, Fnatic still pretty happy with the outcome of that. Nemesis is going to be forced to use the Realm Wall to make sure that he gets to safety.
I bet those two minions hate him. It's like, we just walked all that way. Just go back. More cardio.
But we're also seeing, atomization-wise, I talked a little bit about the Styrax earlier. We're also rather seeing the Titanic Hydra, also a very common itemization coming out from the side of a Jax. He's also stacking up that health, so he does a little bit more damage. Meanwhile, we are seeing the Styrax come out from the side of sOAZ. He wants a little bit more survivability.
Makes a lot of sense, but we're definitely at that point where Misfits teamfight composition is well and truly online.
I mean, it's been online for a while, my friend, and they were just like, well, you just got a team fighters, and Fnatic have been walking into these team fights rather than trying to play the side lanes. Now, the advantage of having the Baron is it's a lot harder to just group up and fight because you're almost always going to lose something on a side lane, but this Baron buff is about to wear off. The game state is about to reset to neutral, and I feel like the longer this game goes on, Misfits are going to be happier and happier because playing the split push can be harder and harder, but at the same time, that Jax becomes even more unkillable on a side lane. Look at the Ryze. You can see he's grouping up with the Jax, and they're actually setting up more of a 2-3 style of comp, and this was something that we actually saw from Origin last split, where rather than trying to play on every single lane, you actually send 2 split pushes to a single lane because it allows you to just keep the pressure up, and you can even threaten the enemy Nexus because of how much pushing power that they do have.
I remember both Origin and G2 doing it from time to time. Perks and Wonder would join up and try and pressure down towards that bottom lane. But here it is Bwipo and Nemesis trying to do what they can. They got the wave pushed in, but they had to back away because they don't have any vision. Look at the Fnatic vision at the moment. It's all focused down towards that bottom side. They do not have a single ward in the top half of the map at all, Vedius. And with Baron still being a couple of minutes away, that's okay for the moment. But I want to see them push in here. I want to see them get some of that jungle control back.
Let's remember how we even got to this point, right?
Let's do it.
Because you talk about jungle control, and it was the junglers that really snowballed this initially for Fnatic. Broxah was having the game of his life. He was popping off. He was doing a great job. Speaking of junglers, Maxlore.
And Gorilla just around the corner, but do they know Nemesis is here? Now they realize. Light Binding does not connect onto Bwipo, and so Fnatic are able to back away, but there's a little bit of a scary moment for both teams there as it went back and forth. There's a control ward in the bush that Max was about to walk in, so Bwipo and Nemesis will realize they need to back away. They're outnumbered down towards this bottom lane.
So now, Misfits actually have priority in both top and mid, which means they have the freedom to gain river control bot side, but they're choosing not to do it top side. Remember that Baron is going to be spawning in just under a minute's time. instead they want to make sure that they control this bottom half of the map. So interesting decision making here from Misfits. They're going to keep mid pushed up. Dragon is clearly their next objective. Dragon is clearly their next objective.
Good stuff, Eddie. Got it in one. First take. But yeah, Hylissang's actually been able to sneak through the river here and get a position behind Misfits. Now, Misfits going to push forward, that Baron coming up relatively soon, and they want to get that vision control. They do not know Hylissang is here. Was on a control ward, finally going to land, but here comes Hylissang straight onto the backline of Bwipo there with the follow-up, the CC chain, Summer down, and Fnatic struck from silence, from invisibility. They found the fight, and now with the realm warp, they're going to push forward. Gorilla and Maxlore running away from Bwipo, who is still on the chase. A great light binding will stop them. sOAZ, he stopped his back, and now Broxah can just chase him down. The Stalker Smite will slow him up, and the rest of Fnatic are on their way. Flash into the blast cone, good escape so far from sOAZ. Doesn't have the teleport, so he's just gonna back in the bush here. But Fnatic will start up the Baron straight away. No contest, it looks like here from Misfits. Fnatic get their second Baron of the game.
Beautiful pick from Fnatic. Hylissang with the flank to lock down Summer. He still has both of his summoners up, showing that he did not have an opportunity to get out of that situation. Misfits are just left with picking up this Drake. The creativity from Fnatic to find a way to come out on top of this fight. If they can just kill Summer, they know that they can win. They find him, they lock him down, they get the kill.
But the thing was, it came from exactly what you were talking about. Misfits wanted bot side river control, had no Baron side vision control, and so Hylissang just walks into their jungle, and they have no idea he's there.
Yeah, you can see he's sitting in complete fog of war. No one expects him to arrive, and then he locks up both carries. The stun then from Bwipo and the Nemesis damage was enough to secure the kill. While Fnatic is front-loaded with QSSs, there's none on the side of Misfits. So when this chain CC lands, they have no options other than to die. So now Fnatic, they reclaim control of the gold. They have the Baron, but now Fnatic is the point of attack.
Rekkles will pop the ultimate teleport coming in here from Fnatic as they join the fight. Nemesis still pushing up mid. 5 Barons strong. Fnatic have such a good 1-3-1 now. Misfits burning the teleport out of Bwipo is good for them, but it's not enough. They need to be able to stop Nemesis as well in this side lane.
Remember that Sivir does have a lot of wave clear at her disposal. She's going to be the primary source of buying time. They're now going on to Nemesis. Realm Warp versus Realm Warp.
Oh! That was pretty. That's playing with portals.
It is Nemesis that is able to get out of that situation. He did still have his flash up, so he wasn't too afraid. Now Sivir going to come back into mid, help wave clear, but now you see the true power of the 1-3-1 with the Baron buff. It is very difficult to deal with because you need so many members just to clear a single wave. It's just so much pressure everywhere on the map.
Go down towards that bottom lane. Nemesis pushing in top here. Broxah trying to roam between mid and top side just to try and protect both his mid laner and his AD carry support duo. Rekkles and Hylissang are at this tower. Will be another one picked up for Fnatic. They are 6,000 gold ahead now, Vedius. Snowballing that away. sOAZ forces Bwipo away, but had to use the world ender. Bwipo popped his own ultimate, the Grandmaster's Might, the continuous engage. Pulling back Bwipo underneath the tower here. The redemption comes out and will keep Bwipo alive for the moment, but he's forced away. Nemesis now wants to try and push on towards the top lane tower, but Misfits are able to react in time and will be able to wave clear this before Nemesis really gets any damage on the tower.
So the problem for Fnatic right now is that their waves aren't aligned. So you've got top wave coming in first. Now Summer can rotate to mid. He can catch this wave as well. And you can see the situation in the bot wave. So Misfits actually have a lot of time to just wave clear. So Fnatic probably won't be able to break into the base off of this Baron buff. Means we're going to require another objective. It's going to give Misfits another opportunity to still win this game. And remember, they have 5 Drakes under their belt. Elder is the next one to spawn. In an ideal world, Fnatic can find themselves an inhibitor before that big objective spawns, but the rate that this is going, I don't think that they will.
20 seconds left on that Baron buff, going to expire pretty soon. They haven't really got that much damage on this mid lane turret. Top lane down to about just over half or so. As you say, I don't think Fnatic will be able to break the base of Misfits on this push. However, because they've had all 3 lanes pushed up, because they've been able to pressure Misfits back into their own base, Misfits have no vision anywhere on the map right now. They are pinned back, hemmed back towards their own base, and now they can step forward just a little bit into their jungle.
So now we reset once again. We're kind of getting to the point where gold doesn't matter a huge amount because, excuse me, even though Fnatic have a gold advantage, and a pretty sizable one. That gold has gone into things like QSS. So these final items that will be normally coming out for Fnatic members can't be completed, which means that from the side of Misfits, the Sivir is actually sitting in a very comfortable spot. You can see that the death cap is currently being worked on for Febiven. Like, both teams in a very even state. Very, very close still. Elder Dragon should be spawning soon.
It's at least a minute away. You can see the timer isn't up on the little Drake pit, so we know it's going to be just a little bit of time before that does spawn, but Fnatic are setting up vision around it. sOAZ dodges away from the Sonic Wave, and as we have a moment of pause, a moment of respite before that objective spawns, I want to talk a little bit about how different the games have been today from yesterday. Yesterday was very fast-paced, very quick action. Today has been much more scaling, much more methodical, much slower overall.
You say methodical, I say we've seen a lot more mistakes, my friend.
Methodical mistakes are a thing, Vedius.
I think that teams have made many more slip-ups, which means that it's given opportunities for enemy teams to bounce back. And if you think about this game, Fnatic could have won, but they tried to go for a team fight, which they lost. Misfits were then in a position to win themselves, and then they went for a Baron that they ended up failing. So now we're in a position where both teams grouping up in the mid lane. Fnatic looking for the collapse. Looks like they won't go for the fight, though.
The pincer movement was an option there for Fnatic, but they couldn't quite find it.
Observers, if you could very quickly look at the side lanes for as this posturing is happening, you can see in the top side of the map there is a push, and the bot side is in favor of Fnatic. Neither of these have been in control. Thank you very much, observers. Both teams A-ramming right now. We're at that point in the game. It's all about the 5v5.
Bwipo goes in, double stun lands. Broxah with the chase onto Hunsummer, but Hunsummer survives. He blocks the Dragon's Rage as well. You have to keep your eyes on that Sivir. That's all that matters. Febiven's going to take down to the Ignite Hunsummer. Bwipo gets onto him. Nemesis there as well. And Fnatic will clean this one up. sOAZ trying to run away from his former teammates, but they will leave him for dust. Fnatic win the fight and are going to take the game.
So much conviction in how they executed that fight. They had one target and one target alone, and the whole team was committed to shutting him down. Hunsummer could not get away. Fnatic win the fight, and they're looking to win the game.
Has been an epic journey for Fnatic in this game. It's been an epic off-season for them as well, with trials and tribulations. But coming back into the LEC, they continue to assert their dominance over Misfits. They'll take down sOAZ, they'll take down the Nexus Towers, and they will take a 2-0 weekend.
Tense stuff in the final moments between Fnatic and Misfits. This game definitely lived up to the heights. Props to Misfits, going for a very different style of composition that we typically see from them. Even though sOAZ was put very far behind, Misfits found a way to come back thanks to their team fighting. Unfortunately, because they failed to secure that Baron, Fnatic kept themselves in the game. They found some beautiful flanks, and ultimately they found that final fight that won them the game. Excellent stuff between these two teams, built up a lot of hype for the split moving forward.
Oh, it definitely does, especially with Misfits performing how well they did after being pushed so far behind. That makes me a lot more excited, because we did wonder if it was just going to be a repeat performance from Misfits, where they struggled, where they were the 8th place team, a bottom of the pack team. That does not look like the Misfits we have at the moment.
Yeah. Also big hugs there between sOAZ and the former players. A lot of laughs on their faces. I think sOAZ knew that he got capped.
Yeah, he got hard capped. There was some malice in that.
Yeah, he definitely did what he could, though, in the situation that he was put in. And yeah, I'm excited for Misfits based on what I've seen. But Broxah, man, this guy, oh, his early game is fantastic. I love what we're seeing from him. Like, if he continues this early game performance, like, I think it's exactly what the meta needs. He's playing extremely well with Nemesis. The fact that he can play through Bwipo as well. Ultimately, like, the reason why Fnatic ended up in this situation is because they went for that one fight that they shouldn't have.
Yeah.
They made that one decision which they should have avoided. They should have kept playing to their side lanes. They should have kept trying to split Misfits up. But they went for that 1-5v5, and they almost threw the game then.
And they did. We want to know who you think should be key player of the game. Was it Broxah, Nemesis, or Hylissang? Give us your vote at Laure Esports on Twitter. And if you want to actually see how Broxah recommends you play Lee Sin, I know you can jump on over to our YouTube channel as well, /Laure Esports, where there is a level up episode with Broxah teaching you all his tips and tricks on the champion. I know I watched a little bit of it. I'm not mechanically good enough to do any of the tips or tricks, but they look cool. So
yeah, very, very cool educational segment from the man Broxah. But yeah, very fun game, 40 minutes on the dot. definitely longer than what we've seen.
Yeah.
But I do think a lot of it came down to a lot of mistakes, throws from both teams.
And I'll take 29 kills in 40 minutes. I'll take that.
Yeah,
We're
we
not quite
definitely-
LCK yet.
Well, I mean, we're very LPL right now. We're definitely quite a bloody region. A lot of fighting, a lot of craziness, a lot of fun to watch, though. This is what we want to see. Both these teams definitely fighting for those top spots as we progress throughout the split. And we're only going to get more action because we've got Origin versus G2 coming up after this one.
I'm so hyped for that game.
So this one has been a good setup. We'll see what G2 and Origin can bring to the table, a rematch of the finals. But I think we are just setting up for an interview right now. Broxah and Laure getting ready. So we get to hear from the jungler himself.
Yeah, we will get to hear perhaps about his early jungle pathing, perhaps about his holidays.
Was it personal against sOAZ?
I feel like even if you ask that question, you're probably not going to get the answer you want.
Yeah, I really wanted to kill him. I was just like, during the off season, you know, I had to shut him down.
Let's see if Broxah will answer that question and see what he has to say after beating Misfits.
Thank you very much, guys. What a crazy game. I mean, you played out of your mind with Lee Sin. What gave you so much confidence?
I don't know. Lee Sin has always been one of my comfort champs, and being back on him felt really good. I was hoping I would get a chance to pull it off this week, and the fact that I managed to start the game so successfully just makes it even greater.
It was great, really, but moving forward into the game, Misfits gave you a hard time. I mean, they had the comp and the dragons to do so. So what happened in the mid-game? Because you almost lost it.
Honestly, I'm not even sure what exactly happened and how we managed to drop the ball. I feel like there was just a lot of small throws here and there, and then at one point they just started adding up, and eventually they were even, and their Sivir picked up a triple kill and was super strong. So I feel like we were just pretty poor at snowballing. We didn't really snowball correctly. We didn't snowball as fast as we should, and I think we just played a lot slower than we actually could have with our leads.
I agree, but it turned right and in your hands in the end. I gotta ask, because looking at this performance, it looked like you were trying to send a message somehow. So is there anything you'd like to say to the Fnatic fans watching you right now?
I guess I'm just making sure that the Fnatic fans out there don't forget about my Lee Sin.
Surely they won't. Thank you very much, Broxah. And for more about this crazy game, let's send it over to Sjokz.
Thank you very much, Laure. They won't forget about Lee Sin, or Broxah's Lee Sin, rather. Also, for the Fnatic faithful, Fnatic, of course, went 0-2 in their first 2 games in spring, and we know where they ended up there. Now they went 2-0 in summer. So it's looking up for Fnatic, but let's break down this game and starting in picks and bans, because there were a lot of interesting choices coming in from both sides, and you guys mainly wanted to look at the Lux and the Rakan.
Yeah, I think coming in right off the bat, we saw a first rotation pick of Xayah actually from Fnatic. And then Misfits make the call. They say, okay, a Rakan's probably coming in after that. So they themselves early pick the Lux because it's a pretty good matchup into Rakan. His W is very telegraphed, which means you can land the light binding and get the aftershock for free.
And when all the compositions are kind of said and done, you kind of have these clear-cut strengths for both teams. You have Misfits who have a bit more of a traditional front line. They can look for a traditional team fight front to back, especially with Hansama on the likes of the Sivir. Whereas on the other side, yes, you have Rakan and Xayah who also like to fight front to back, but ultimately because it's a Lee Sin and a Jax, you need to be much more about the flanks and playing the 1-3-1 in tandem with that Ryze.
Shortly about the Jax, we don't see it often. It works well versus Aatrox. Why is it so good versus him?
It basically just outscales in the 1v1 later on. You know, he has a lot of just reliable damage, and once you have Trinity Force, you just start beating him in that side lane. You also get to go the Conqueror, so it becomes a pretty free matchup for him.
So the game plans from both sides are pretty clear going into this one, and you also know if Broxah picks up a Lee Sin, he's going to look to gank and make plays, and that's exactly what he did. I think he has had 2 fantastic days. Broxah, he was great yesterday. He was fantastic as well today.
Yeah, I thought all these ganks were actually super clean. You see, he used the Ward Hop into flash, then Q to make sure there's no time for him to reactively flash away in the mid lane. Similar things up top lane here when he comes in for sOAZ, just making it look very, very easy here on the Lee Sin.
Also a bit of his POV.
I just love that follow-up, that he holds the Q there to make sure that he can get the execution.
Exactly. You use the Ward Hop to get the extra auto, then the bonus damage on top of it, and then sOAZ doesn't have flash for the next gank, so Broxah definitely took it to sOAZ there.
Yeah, and also LEC training grounds. If you want to play Lee Sin like Broxah, go
Good luck.
check it out. Good luck indeed. So everything nice and dandy for Fnatic, I would say. They get exactly what they want. Broxah gets his lanes ahead. They can go for the split push. What happens? Why did they not hold on to their lead.
I think there's two critical errors here. So we talked about the 1-3-1 potential with Fnatic's composition, and Broxah did a good job in the early game feeding the necessary gold into who he needed to get ahead. Jax is going to outscale, so Fnatic just need to pick the right lane assignments, and they can start splitting up Misfits' composition. The issue is when Nemesis is caught in that bottom lane, and then immediately after, they run into a dragon fight, and they're like, okay, we weren't working out on the side lanes, we want to fight for this dragon fight, and they try to fight the team fight, and then that's another throw.
Yeah, let's take a look at that dragon fight, because indeed that is where Misfits gets completely back in the game and actually fights their way back. But you could say it is an unforced error from the hand of Fnatic, because they don't need to contest this at this point.
Yeah, they don't. Again, the 1-3 is strong. Also, executing in the team fights is very difficult for this comp from Fnatic. They have to, by some miracle, get Hansama killed right off the bat, and in this fight they weren't able to, so he picked up the triple.
And that needs to be understated. It is really difficult for Fnatic to execute on 5v5s into Misfits composition, so the fact that they do manage to win team fights during this game is just mind-boggling to me.
Can you just imagine walking into a Luck Snare and then a Sivir boomerang and whatnot? It's
And then
awful.
you're already dead.
and that's what we saw here. They were already dead. But then they changed gears, right, Fnatic?
The thing is we kind of got into this weird lull state where they needed Bwipo on Jax to be creating pressure. So you see Bwipo running out into side lanes, but the thing is Misfits will force members to kill him. They need to bring more than one. And so you constantly saw Maxlore kind of shadowing Bwipo, shadowing sOAZ, looking to engage on him. And the problem was that Hilly wasn't finding the initial engagement. They needed to be able to engage that if they forced multiple members of Misfits down on Bwipo, that Fnatic could punish the rest of Misfits. But it was so hard to find those moments.
Yeah, because Misfits was also being very diligent with their vision control up until a point, because Rakan, Hilly, he found a way. He found the spot.
Yeah, it was actually so sick. Hylissang sat in this bush for so long, waiting for Misfits to overstep, and you actually saw them really try to engage without knowing he was behind them.
And look at where Skarner is. It's the fact that he was shadowing underneath Aatrox, and again, they needed Hilly to find this big engage, and he'd attempted. He'd been sitting here. He'd been camping out. He was waiting for his moment.
And you just feel it when they step forward into that ward. This is it.
Yeah, and it's the combo on top of the counter-strike there as well, coming in from Bwipo, which makes it so that even though there's a flash and heal up for the Sivir, she can't press either of those buttons.
Nope. Good stuff there from Fnatic. And then, you know, the Elder Drake is still going to be up, but we know Misfits has a good team composition. So how does Fnatic in the end close it out?
I mean, even at that point, I thought Misfits were still going to win that fight around the dragon, and it became the Broxah show. He somehow got in there and found out Hansama. I think it started with Fnatic singling out Gorilla, but really the key kill for them was Hans.
Let's take a look at the final fight that makes that Fnatic can push it all the way through to the Nexus, because if it's a team fight, you still think Misfits have the upper hand, but Bwipo goes in.
Yeah, Bwipo starts it up, and then there's the Broxah move back there. Boom.
Yeah,
and I lost it.
He holds his kick, too, to wait out the spell shield as well, and then re-enters the fight at the end here. He's just going all over the place.
And I said it at Worlds, and I'll say it here again. Broxah is the type of player that when he gets on Lee Sin, future League of Legends professionals will be made watching that type of performance.
The Broxah.
Exactly. That's how hyped you get. Like, I have no doubt that if we check the stats, that Lee Sin will suddenly be played a lot more tonight after a performance like that.
And is also crowned by a Kia player of the game, Broxah, with 51% of the votes. I sometimes feel bad for Hilly, but if we look at the entire game, Broxah did more to set up everything for Fnatic, we have to say, so I agree with it.
Yeah, Broxah was #1 in this game from start to finish. He got Fnatic ahead to begin with, and he won them the game with the team fight.
Fantastic stuff, and yeah, Misfits, they still put up an amazing fight, but Fnatic walks away with the win, and we have another fantastic game coming up to close out Week 1. Origin and G2 Esports face off in our match of the week. Don't miss it.
Fighting, boys. Febiven, Skilljax. Nice. Vision. Nice, guys, nice. Guys, slow. I can't go. Chill.
Bwipo jumps forward. There goes Broxah as well. Away! Fnatic take the Baron. Misfits will take a few kills off this.
I got a stun. I'm one shot Lux is dead. I got Sivir. I'm coming for Sivir. I'm following you on Sylas. I can Ryze ult. Go up to me. Go. Ryze ult. I stunned her. She's dead. Got her. Nice, guys. Go Aatrox. You might die. I'm coming to help you here. I'm on red to help you.
They continue to assert their dominance over Misfits. They'll take down sOAZ, they'll take down the Nexus towers, and they will take a 2-0 weekend.
Welcome to ProView. Exclusive POV streams for every player in every game let you get closer to the action and get inside their minds. With Multiview, you can create your very own stream, unique to you, with up to 4 feeds. And with our advanced timeline, you can hone in on all the big plays that matter most to you. Watch LEC in a whole new way for €14.99, or get the All Access Pass for $19.99.
We are powered up.
Get the Baron buff power play with Shell V-Power.